Welcome to Not Your Nerdy Neighbor. My name is Eric, and this week I'm going to review my new laptop I've had for a few weeks, the Asus Zephyrus M16. It was announced at CES 2022 and actually won a design award. It is probably one of the fastest 16-inch laptops available that does not have a full-size keyboard and is a 16 by 10 screen, which I prefer because you get that little bit of extra resolution. So it ends up being closer to 1600p for the screen instead of like 1440p like you would find on a higher resolution monitor. So in my case, I'm trying to avoid my email, it's a 2560 by 1600, and it does support HDR mode, which is a higher resolution mode used for finer color accuracy. This screen is color accurate. It's Pantone rated, 240 hertz refresh rate, which is insane, but you definitely notice it when you're gaming or watching a movie. In this case, I primarily use mine for gaming. I use it for some schoolwork because I teach part-time, and then just entertainment in general. I was needing a new computer. The other gaming computer I got was not holding up. This computer actually has a full RGB keyboard. The keys have pretty decent actuations on them for a laptop keyboard with a huge trackpad. And as you can see, I don't have a very big hand, but having a large trackpad is handy. No pun intended. But typing on this keyboard has been fantastic. It's perfect for me. I like the spacing in between the keys. And then also one of the fancier features is that it does have a LED panel on the back. It's just one color, but you can throw any design you want. In this case, it's the default Republic of Gamers display on the back side. Very light laptop. I believe it is carbon fiber. And the great part is it is fully user serviceable. Thank freaking God it is. There is a stand on the back that does help with ventilation. If you do need to get into it, you don't have to rip this off and try to readhere it on. Asus put a lot of thought into this. There are actually little plugs back here you can pull out so you can unscrew it without having to worry about putting this back on again. So I'm pretty happy about that. But the rest of it looks pretty easy to service. There's just little screws on the backside here. The whole backside just comes off. No fuss, no muss. The RAM is serviceable. The M.2 storage is serviceable. It's got 32 gigabytes of RAM, 2 terabyte M.2 SSD. For the processor, we have a Intel Core i9-13900H, which is 20 CPU cores. It's like 6 processing cores, 8 efficiency cores, and it's hyper-threaded, which results in a total of 20 cores somehow. I'm not sure on the exact math on that, but I made sure to check that. And that is accurate on the Intel Arc, which is kind of their database for all their processors. I mean, you can look up a Pentium 386 on there clear up until today's processors. So they go back quite a ways. You might even be able to look up like an old 8086 if you really wanted to. But in this case, yeah, it's got a 24 megabytes of L3 cache, which is just like for the less technical people, super fast memory for processes that run in the background. So you have your built-in processor cache, that taps into kind of like RAM, and then you have the regular system RAM, which RAM memory, people call different things. And then you have a paging file on your computer, which isn't that great to use on a solid-state drive. The paging file acts like memory when you run out of RAM. And in this case, I have 32 gigabytes of RAM, so I sure as heck hope I don't run out of it. But yeah, it's just a gorgeous screen. If I was doing any kind of video editing on here versus on my Mac Mini, I usually edit most of my videos on there. This would be a fantastic option. Movavi is a great video editor. I may start using a little bit, but I still like iMovie. I've used it for over 20 years between school and personal life over the years, so kind of hooked on it. Kind of like people who like Office, like Microsoft Office. That's all they'll use. So, but yeah, so let's take a look at the video card, which is a GeForce RTX 4090, and it is a Max Q edition, which just means that's only available on the laptops. It has to do with power efficiency, managing the load, and the thermal profile for managing the temperature in the laptop. The fans do kick up quite a bit if I'm playing something like The Witcher 3, but they're not really all that loud because most of what I play are like indie games anyway, for the most part. Like Deep Rock Galactic, that's a lot of fun, fairly inexpensive. It would shock me if it was over $40. It should be like 30 or 40, maybe even less most of the time if there's a Steam sale that is discounted, probably down to 20 or less. So great game. This does have 32 gigabytes of dedicated video. I mean, not 32, sorry, that's shared. 16 gigabytes of video RAM, which is great for like rendering like textures in the background, like the grass, the shadows, reflections, stuff like that. For the peripherals, we do have an HDMI 2.1 jack, which supports up to 8K 60 or 4K 120. I'm using this predominantly with a 1440p monitor when I'm sitting down. That goes up to 165 hertz. So my laptop display is actually better than my monitor I use as my daily driver. But then you also have a Thunderbolt jack, which, I mean, Thunderbolt 4 is USB 4. It does have power delivery. It won't charge, on this laptop, it won't charge it completely if I'm playing a game, but if I'm in desktop mode, doing internet browsing, stuff like that, this will actually charge it without the barrel connector that's in the back. The charger is, it's got an output of 280 watts, which is ridiculous. But for the size of it, it's not too bad weight-wise. It's maybe 5 pounds, maybe 6. So not too heavy. Pretty thin considering how much they used to be. I know some of the older Asus gaming laptops used to straight up have a brick that was twice this size. I had a friend who many years ago bought an Asus ROG Republic of Gamers series laptop, and it had a really heavy brick and a big old vent on the backside that was probably 2 inches tall just for cooling, and this doesn't do that. You also have cooling all around the laptop, and you'll notice that there is an intentional gap underneath to provide better cooling for the laptop, hence the little wedge in the back. And then the screen itself does add additional gapping. There's actually little rubber feet on the back side of the monitor that help with that. For the other side of the laptop, there's no I/O on the back side, which is just input output. That's all I/O means, if you wondered. There is a micro SD card reader with the latest standard. I don't even know what the latest standard is, but it'll support what's out there. I think you can go up to like a 2 terabyte SD card. Maybe if you're using a GoPro or something, that might be handy. And then there is a USB-C display port connector on the side. This is not a Thunderbolt 4 USB 4 connector on this side. I do use that to connect up to my monitor so I get the maximum refresh rate possible. If you don't use the proper connector, you either won't get the proper refresh rate or you might lose out on other features like HDR or higher resolution. So keep your cables current when it comes to that stuff. If you're running into issues with compatibility, it's probably the cable. I know that sounds kind of cliche possibly, but it really is. And then all of the USB Type A ports, which is what most people are accustomed to, are USB 3, I want to say 3.1 or 3.2, but I'm not usually plugging stuff in here. I have a Dell Thunderbolt 4 port replicator. Some people might call it a docking station. It's kind of the older term for it, but that gives me my extra ports if I'm doing something like streaming where I need to hook up like my mic and my webcam. Although the webcam on this one is pretty slick. It's Windows Hello enabled, and it does not look awful. Let me do showing some finance documents, so give me just a minute. Okay. But yeah, I mean, as far as the display goes, looks fantastic. I have a window to my left, so it kind of screws up the lighting. I don't know the technical term. I'm not a photographer. But yeah, this works fantastically well. And as you may have noticed, every video I've shot on this channel has been either on an iPhone 12 or an iPhone 14. So, but yeah, I'll close that out. I'll pull open a game and show you the refresh rate I'm getting. Witcher 3 is probably the most demanding I have installed. Hogwarts Legacy, it does take a lot of power. There are some inefficiencies with it right now, but it does look fantastic. But I'll open up The Witcher since it does have that next generation patch on there now, and I can run that in DirectX 12 mode just fine. If you are running it on a Steam Deck and you're having problems, change that to DirectX 11 and you'll probably solve like 99% of your problems. One other thing this does have is this has NVIDIA Optimus, which means it will automatically switch between the Intel Iris Xe graphics, the integrated graphics, over to the discrete graphics card, which is the RTX 4090. It'll automatically do that. You don't have to plug in anything, flip stuff around, do any of that stuff. Let's see how this looks. Probably doesn't look too great on camera, but I'm gonna try and show a daytime scene. It's the frame rate mostly I wanted to show off here. I have the frame rate in Steam showing. It's on a loading screen, so it's only going to show 30, but right now, yeah, I'm sticking around 100 FPS or over. I have everything on the max settings. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it over to daytime. I actually normally play this on a controller. I played it on keyboard and mouse a little bit, but yeah, like 105, 107 FPS, which anything above 60 to me is perfect. I usually try and change my graphics, even on higher end computers, toward just in favor of gameplay quality, not necessarily graphics quality. And in this case, everything looks fantastic. It's a beautiful game in general. I'll have it, I'll switch over to Care more, and there's some more beautiful sights. But yeah, just the scenes in this game, I mean, that is just gorgeous. I mean, I have all the lighting and shadow settings turned on, and it's still easily over 100 FPS. So, but other than that, I believe there is room in here for either another M.2 or a 2.5-inch form factor SATA SSD. But on one that's 2 terabytes, I didn't even fill the 2 terabyte drive on my other computer, and I had a 500 gigabyte M.2 SSD and a 1 terabyte SSD in there, and I didn't even fill that. So I'm pretty happy with it. I don't do a ton of gaming anymore, and a little bit I do. It's mostly just these games right here. It's these 7, of course, Vampire Survivors, That's a ROG light. That doesn't take much power. I mean, they make that for the iPad and the iPhone. It can't take too much. Of course, got to have the original shooter, the original WSAD shooter on there. Quake. If you haven't played that, they did an update so it runs on modern operating systems. Hogwarts Legacy. Let's pop in there for a minute, see how that looks. I know, like, the spells look fantastic in this, just the lighting effects in general, so I'll pop in there for you. But I mean, yeah, this just looks fantastic. It dips, it's closer to 60 FPS. I have everything cranked on high right now. Runs extremely smooth. The camera can't quite catch the 240 hertz refresh rate. But I mean, yeah, it just looks fantastic. If I... Like, that just looks beautiful on here. Let's see if I have another one. And even when you go invisible, it does really great tracking on transparent or translucent surfaces. That's not enemy. And then if I want to ride my broom, even as I go further up and it starts to render out further, like if I fly closer to Hogwarts, it's still holding a solid, yeah, like 60, 62 FPS. So my local electronics store, Nebraska Furniture Mart, did not sell it. They have a whole gaming section. For some reason, they didn't sell it. It might be other brands like MSI, Acer, and maybe even Origin. I'm not sure, but yeah, I bought this at Best Buy. I was very happy with it. I did have to order it online. None of my local Best Buy stores. I only have 2 in town now, and they did not carry it in store, so I had it shipped to my house. If you are not home during the day, it is an expensive enough item that you do have to sign for it. So I would recommend either shipping it to the store or shipping it to a friend or family who is home. But other than that, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we're up to, I believe, 70 subscribers now. So thank you very much for your time and subscribing and watching my videos and shorts. It's been mostly little Fiona videos and some cooking ones, so I thought I'd change it up with some tech stuff. But yeah, feel free to like, subscribe. I don't have any sponsors at this time, but hopefully as I work my way through the YouTube space, maybe I can get someone to sponsor a video and I can try out the product. But other than that, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you all later.